Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nidus Anarchy series. I'm your host Adam, CIO and co-founder of Nidus, and today I'm going to show you how I use Windsurf Rules to create massively complex and detailed schematics on how to build an app. Super simple. Windsurf Rules is kind of the response to Cursor AI's memory in the sense that you can now give each of your IDEs or each project that you're in its own memory of who it is and what it needs to be doing with every prompt that you give it. And it's very simple. All you have to do is in your new project, just go over here and create a new file and just call it .windsurf rules. And you'll see it flips to a markdown and it gives you a little example. So it starts out here and says, add local rules and guidelines for a cascade to follow in this workspace. The best guidelines are clear and concise. For example, speak to me in Spanish. My build system is Bazel. My testing framework is PyTest. Don't modify any files in whatever folder. Don't use these APIs. Click to add this to git ignore. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So now it will, there is no git ignore file. So if I made one though, let's try this right now. So new file, we'll make a git ignore file. And now if we go back to our Windsurf rules, now there we go. So now it's going to add it. So this way it won't check it into our repo. Wonderful. So I'm going to show you what I use as my prompt for building out a brainstorming session with Windsurf. This is something that I've found that has been massively beneficial. I mean, this was such a huge breakthrough that I'm surprised I didn't think of it earlier. And it's now how I'm going to develop every app moving forward. I now use Windsurf not as an IDE, but as a crazy brainstorming tool to really figure out the entire project of what it is I want to build and get it into super detailed info levels so that I can take this and then pipe this out to Bolt or whatever to then build out the entire infrastructure of the app that I want with crazy amounts of detail. All right, so this is the new system prompt that I'm going to give it for this project. So in the Windsurf rules, I want you to keep an active log file, chatlog.md, that is meant to be read by an LLM that will be kept up to date with every response back from you. Before making any responses, you can refer back to this log as needed. So that whole prompt is so that as we start talking, right? Because you have this, if you're doing this old school where you're actually going into Claude or ChatGPT and you say, hey, edit this code, and you paste the code, and it gives you the code, and you copy and paste it back, and you're doing that whole thing, which hopefully you've moved on and you figured out Cursor or Windsurf by now. But if you're still doing that, one of the things you're going to find out is that you're going to run into a point where you've run out of chat stuff or it's run out of time. You have to start a whole new chat prompt all over again, and it loses all the memory. And that's super frustrating. Now, how do you take that entire chat history that you just had and pick it up in the next one? That's always been a pain in the butt. Well, when you're using something like Windsurf, it can create files for you as it's generating stuff. So now what I'm doing is saying, I want you to keep a chat log of everything that we're talking about, not the actual one-to-one, but just a summary of it. So now, should I have to start over? Should I need to take this and put it into another LLM? Should I have to go into ChatGPT 01 for something? Or do I need to go to Gemini? Or do I want to type this into something else? Whatever. I have the whole history. Or if I just have to start over, which always happens too. So like maybe I want to do a little fork of a particular thing, but I want to know the whole history of the project that I'm working on. It now has it all as opposed to taking this entire massive tokenized chat transcript. It has everything that it needs right in this one file, which is the chat log. Let's move on. Once you have the full plan, I want you then to make a task list, tasks.md, of everything we need to brainstorm on to really figure out all the details and how to make this $100 million app. So the next file I'm making is a tasks file. So this is going to be a task list of everything that we need to do from what we build out. And this is all these docs that it's going to make are all living documents. So as we chat and as we brainstorm and figure out what the app's going to do, it's going to be making modifications of these files on every single prompt. So every time I tell it to do something, every time I tell the LLM to do something, it's going to refer to this and it's going to do everything in here with everything with every prompt that I give it. The other thing here, a little bit of a trick, is I want to make this a $100 million app. So the reason I'm telling it to say I want to make this a $100 million app is because it will then know the scope of what it needs to make. So later on, when I tell it to ask me questions, it will be trying to build everything to make this a very large app. The 7-Eleven thing doesn't need to be a $100 million app, but it's just one of those tricks to get it into the mindset of what it is that I'm building and, very crazy goals, because you want to have really lofty goals. Okay. Once we have a full plan and task list, let's start going through all the items in the task list and provide all the answers and exhaust ideas. As we go through and complete each of the tasks, you need to update a document called report.md that records all of the ideas and stuff that we come up with into a full-length documented report. So now I'm going to have the chat log. I'm going to have the whole tasks of all the things we need to make. And then I'm going to have a report of the whole app, how the app works, what it's going to do, all of its functionality, so we know everything that this thing's going to do when we're done. As you progress through responses, see if you need to ask me any questions first. If getting more information from me before answering anything would lead to a better result, always ask first until you have enough to answer the best as possible. This whole thing is very important. You really want to have the LLM ask you questions for clarifying kind of detail on what it is that you're trying to build. Trying to just zero shot it and it just assume that it knows everything, very rarely are you going to get what you want, because it's going to make up everything it doesn't know, right? It's going to hallucinate the hell out of everything, and it's just going to fill in the gaps of whatever it wants. Now, when you tell it, hey, if you don't know something, if you're unsure about something, ask me. Or if you had more information from me, you could do it better, ask me. It will now stop and ask me a ton of different questions, and it will allow me to answer those questions to provide better detail to create a better app overall. So now this is, again, because it's in the rules, every time I give it a prompt, it's going to know, oh, hey, maybe I should ask them for more information because I could probably do this better if I knew this bits of information. So you're going to find a lot more back and forth with the LLM through prompting than just do this, does it, do this, does it. And you get a lot better results. Longer responses are always better than shorter responses. So if need be, split your responses into smaller chunks that are put together over multiple responses. This is another big important one because you don't want it to try to limit itself to doing only just like it says like, oh, I can only fit this many tokens into the response. So therefore I'm only going to give you, this level of detail. I want the most amount of detail possible. So I want it to go over multiple things. So that's the whole system prompt I'm using for the Windsurf rules. So now let's give it the prompt to start generating our app. Now the app we're going to do, there's a previous podcast where I had the idea. I was like, hey, it'd be cool is if I had an app that I could just pull 7-Eleven and see if it has Monster Rehab in stock or not. I don't think this app is going to work because there is no 7-Eleven API. So it would have to scrape the website, find the stuff, know what Monster Rehab is. There's so many weird things in here. I don't see this actually working, but I figured this is just a really good idea just to show you how this kind of thing works. So I've built out a prompt. Well, here's 7-Eleven, 7now.com. So let's go ahead and find, where's my prompt at? Here we go. Okay. So here's the prompt. You are a world-class IT SaaS innovator renowned for pioneering cutting-edge enterprise applications that simplify complex workflows and deliver unparalleled value to businesses. Your innovations consistently attract clients by solving niche challenges with precision and scalability. I'm seeking your expertise to conceptualize and design a SaaS application aimed at tackling a specific and high-demand consumer problem. The objective is to create a platform that enables users to check local 7-Eleven store inventories for specific items, starting with Monster Rehab energy drinks, in real time. The system should be efficient, user-friendly, and scalable, with the potential to expand into other products and stores. Here's the primary goals. Real-time inventory checks for Monster Rehab at nearby 7-Eleven stores, user-friendly interface with location-based search functionality, notifications for restock or low stock alerts, advanced features, integration with 7-Eleven's inventory APIs. There aren't any. So we're just going to get rid of that. You know what? I'm not going to do any of this advanced stuff. Let's just get rid of all this here. Subscription-based premium plans. Nope, we're not going to put in any planning of that stuff. Okay, here we go. Seamless mobile and desktop app integration, cloud-based backend for scalability and performance optimization, robust logging and reporting systems for data insights, potential roadmap expansion, B2B SaaS applications for retail chains to offer inventory visibility to customers, and an API for integration into other apps or retail ecosystems. One thing I'm going to add in here is you may need to look at 7now.com. I think that's their delivery, right? 7now.com. For current inventory. Oops. Oh well. As there is no 7-Eleven API. Okay. Here we go. So there's our prompt to build out our app, and it's going to refer to Windsurf Rules to start. Now, we don't need this. We need this. So let's go ahead and kick this thing off. Here we go. So now, like I said, it's reading the Windsurf Rules, and then it's going to start working with me on brainstorming. It's not going to write any code. We're going to work on just brainstorming together to build this app out. This is something that's crazy because I think IDE, I'm like, okay, this is just to generate code. It's not. It's so much more powerful when you don't think of Windsurf as an IDE. Just think of it as your AI buddy to do anything that you want with it, especially with these rules, because now we can do all kinds of crazy stuff. So you can see right off the bat, we have our chat log, our report log, and the tasks MD already created, already making stuff, and it's making changes as it's going through and making these files, which is pretty rad. Let's go ahead and accept all the changes. So here we go. I'll help you create and maintain the required documentation files and guide us through this exciting project. Let me start by setting up the documentation structure. First, I'll create all the files. So I made all the files. Now that I've set up our documentation structure, I have some important questions before we dive deeper. Here we go. And we're just going to answer them just like they do. So 1A, target market understanding. Are we focusing on any specific geographic region initially? Let's just say New York. 1B, do you have any data on Monster Rehab consumption patterns? No. 2A, have you, technical constraints, have you already investigated 7Now's technical structure or attempted any API research? No. 2B, are there any specific technical constraints or preferences we should consider? No, but this is where you would say, yes, actually, I want it to do this. I want it to do that. So you can give it all those kind of finer level details. We're just kind of getting through this, so we don't really care. Business model. Do you have any initial thoughts on monetization? I want it to be free for now. This is kind of conflicting with the $100 million goal. Are there any specific revenue targets besides the $100 million? You know what? Let's do this. I want it to be free for now. And then, okay. And then this is to be acquired for 100 million later. 3B, are there any specific revenue targets besides the $100 million goal? Nope. And now I'm going to add to 3A is goal is to get as many users to use it as possible. Okay. 4, competition. 4A, are you aware of any existing solutions? No. 4B, have you identified any specific pain points in the current inventory checking process? Yes. There is no API or notification from 7-Eleven. Okay. Let me update the chat log and update it. Okay, here we go. So now I'm going to give it the answers. And now let's just, while it's kind of going through this, let's show you what it's created. So here's our chat log. Initial project brief, assistant's initial response, assistant's questions for clarification, and then here. Now you can see status. It's awaiting project direction, but because I just gave it, it has now removed that, and it's updated it with everything that's going on. And look at this. It's even status in progress. That's crazy. Okay. We'll accept all those changes. Let's check our report. Here's our report. So right now it's kind of built out the table structure of what's going to go with the headlines, but just kind of project overview. The initial concept, real-time inventory tracking system for Monster Rehab energy drinks at 7-Eleven stores with potential for expansion to other products and retail chains. Yep, nothing else really to do there yet. And now tasks. Oh, here's a task list. Wow, it's got a lot going on in here. Immediate priorities, technical feasibility study, growth strategy, market and research analysis, technical architecture, all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay, now, here we go. Let's see what it said. Before we proceed further, I have a few critical questions about technical approach. Okay, let's see what it wants to know. 1, would you like me to perform an initial analysis of 7now.com to understand the structure and how we might access inventory data? Yes. Okay, 2, for the New York market, should we focus on specific boroughs initially? Let's do Long Island. This way it's not actually a borough. Oh, there's a 2B. My bad. 2B. Do you have any preferences for the initial radius of stores to cover? You know what? Let's just do this. For just 2 overall, I want to focus. I want a user to provide a zip code and just look up in that area. There we go. So then it can be anywhere. Who cares if it's New York, right? Okay, 3, for user acquisition strategy, would you be open to implementing a wait list for initial launch? Sure, why not? Sounds like fun. And 3B, should we consider partnerships with local influencers? Sure. Okay. There we go. Answers questions. So now it's getting more information about itself, and it's updating their chat log, and it's updating a report. So this is how I brainstorm with the LLM now, is I have it ask me questions. And obviously when I'm doing this for real, I give it way more in-depth answers. I give it a lot more information about what I want, because the more info you give it and the more detail you give it, the better results you're going to get overall, just altogether. So now let's see here. So now We need to do more technical research. It's going to do all kinds of stuff. Let's let it do its thing. Okay, so based on our initial technical analysis, I have some specific questions to help us move forward. From MVP launch, would you like to implement a simple web-based waitlist system to gauge interest? Okay, yep, that sounds good. 1A, yes. So you can see it's asking me way more questions. The more questions you have, the more answers you give, the better detail you get. This is awesome. Okay, so should we collect any specific data from users joining the waitlist? Not now. So I just don't want to waste the time. For the scraping strategy, so it already knows it's going to have to scrape the website. That's pretty cool. Should we start with hourly inventory checks, or would you prefer a different frequency? Yeah, hourly is fine, I guess. 2B, do you want to prioritize accuracy, more frequent checks, or system stability, less load on 7 now? Let's do system stability. System stability. Okay, 3A. Should we implement a simple upvoting system for a user can confirm if inventory data was accurate? Sure, that's neat. It's kind of neat. So people can actually say, yes, this is right or not. Okay, 3B. Would you like to include a feature where users can report when they find Monster Rehab in stock? No, I just don't want additional features right now. There we go. So this is what's pretty cool. It's already come up with cool ideas I never even thought of. Like it's already thinking about marketing strategies. It's trying to think of additional features. And what I've also done in here before that was a lot of fun is I'll put in things that'll say, hey, I want you to come up with innovative ideas that incorporate the use of AI in ways that no one else is doing for this particular niche. And by doing so, it comes up with a whole new mess of ideas of cool things that you can implement, which we're not going to do now, but I'm just saying that is something that obviously you could do. Okay, this just did not respond. That was weird. Where'd all my answers go? Okay. Let's do this again here real quick. Okay, 1. A, we don't implement simple web-based waitlist system. Yes. 1B. Should we collect specific data join the list? No. 2A. Should we start with inventory checks for a different frequency? Hourly. 2B. Do you want infinite accuracy? Stability. 3A. Should we implement a simple opening system? Yes. And 3B is no. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened. I'm going to copy this in case it errors again. Yeah, there's something wrong. I've seen this recently happen in Windsurf. I don't know why. To get out of it, just go to here and then just bring it back up again and then try this one more time. Yeah, it's still locked. So this is an exact reason why I have all these documents made. This whole chat session just got borked. I have no idea why. Don't know what's going on. It looks like it's completely hosed. Let's see. Are you even working? Let's just try chat. Hi. Yeah, it's not even responding at all. So I'm going to start a whole new chat. And now, read all the MD files to get caught up to date. Here's my answers to the last questions. Okay, yeah, there's something completely wrong with Windsurf. Let's just completely exit out. And this is the whole reason this whole idea was put into place. Oh, I know why. I ran out of credits. I guarantee you that's what happened. Yep. Okay, let's upgrade. That's so annoying. Okay, here we go. I'll do this, probably more credits. That's the thing that drives me nuts with Windsurf. When you run out of credits, it doesn't tell you. It tells you when you're getting low, but it doesn't tell you when you're out. It just stops responding. It just stops working altogether. And you're sitting there going, what's going on? Okay, here we go. So now let's do what we did before. Read in all the MD files to get caught up. Okay, so we're going to play catch up here. So read in all the MD files to get caught up. And here's the answers to your last questions. And if I didn't have them, obviously I could go back to the chat log and I can look and I can see, hey, look, next steps. Oh, does it even have the questions in here? User focus on, it doesn't really. Report. So it doesn't know the questions I asked. So to get caught up, what's next? I could do that. I want to see though, if I can just pick up from here, because this will be easier. Yes, I can. Okay, cool. But that is the prime reason why I create this documentation. So should anything go wrong, I can just pick it right back up in a new chat, and it has all the information that we just talked about without having to reseed it with all those tokens and just waste tokens. So this has been pretty rad. Okay, once we get this thing done, we're gonna say this is it. Now let's build the app, and we're gonna move on to the next piece. Okay, so for the next part, we're gonna go to our next prompt, and the next one is this. Copy this over. Okay, there we go. Before we proceeding, okay, let's do this. Okay, so my next prompt, I'm not going to answer any more questions now because I feel like I'm good enough. This thing will probably just keep asking me questions forever, so you need to know when to say stop and let's go, right? So write a new file, summary.md, that is 2,000 word essay about what the app is doing, how it works, and the features it will have in the MVP and in the final product. Explain everything in low-level detail and give elaborate examples. So we're going to give that out. So now we're going to create a new file. Now this is going to tell us everything that the app is going to do in a summary form, so we can read through this and say, hey, look, is this good or not? And here's why. If we look at the report, right now this report's pretty short because we didn't populate all this other stuff that we want to do. So it's pretty easy. Now, when you really get going into a legit brainstorming session, I'll spend 2 hours, sometimes even longer, just going through building out all the apps, all the details, everything I want it to do, all the features, all the innovation features I want to have that are crazy. I let it come up with stuff that I think is impossible because sometimes it figures out how to do it. So just let it go nuts. So that report can be huge, and just going through all that is insane. So that's why I like to create this little summary file. It just gives me that little bit of okay, I can read through, and is this really what I want? Does this have all the things? Is this the main features of the MVP we're going to do? If yes, I know we're on the right page. So now I can look at our summary. I'm not going to read all, but we have the introduction. The 7-Eleven inventory checker is an innovative solution designed to solve a common consumer pain point, the uncertainty of a product availability at convenience stores. Initially focusing on Monster Rehab energy drinks in New York, this application aims to provide real-time inventory information to users through a sophisticated web scraping and data management system. We have the problem, the solution, technical architecture, web scraping infrastructure, proxy management, data validation, back-end architecture, serverless infrastructure, database structure, caching layer, front-end implementation. This is crazy. And what you can always do is you can go in here. Look, it even has the schema of the responses that it's going to send. But what's awesome is you can go through and modify this, say, hey, I've updated the summary. This is how I want the app to work. So now that we have our summary done, again, it's saying, hey, I know some areas we can potentially enhance your product. Do you want me to explore any of these? No, I don't. We're not doing any of that. Normally you would, but not right now. Now let's go to our next prompt. We'll copy this one over. Okay. Now build out a new file called mvp.md that has these things. 1, a summary of the application to feed to an LLM about the application that is to be built, framework, React, all functions and features, and what they are each supposed to do. Number 2, give a full design layout and explanation for an LLM to know how the app looks and functions to build it. And number 3, a complete checklist of all the items, each with a description on the functionality and how it's used. So now, again, this because this is a smaller app, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're talking about much bigger apps with crazy amounts of functionality, and you're saying innovative features and AI integration and all this other crazy stuff that would be like, this would be an amazing, cool app to have. As cool as it is, we need to build something. And if you want to do all those things, you can, but it's going to take a lot longer to get there. So what we're going to do now is saying, hey, look, we need to build just an MVP, a minimum viable product. It's something where it's good enough. It demos the whole point of the application, gets people interested, and then we can start adding features to it later. So right now it's, look, let's just make the small part. What's the bare minimum stuff we have to do? Let's build that up. But first, let's figure out what it is. And that's what it's doing right now. So do we want to add more details around error handling? No. Okay, so let's check out our MVP. Our MVP, technical stack, front end, React 18, using Redo Toolkit. Routing, React Router 6, Tailwind CSS, Express.js, MongoDB, Redis, JWT, deploying in AWS, Lambda, Dynamo. Nice. Okay. Let's just do this. Make sure that MVP is using mock API endpoints for all REST requests to, for all backend app calls. Use real web scraping calls though for 7-Eleven. So this is another little trick I do. If you tell it to make all this stuff and say, hey, here's all the API endpoints to all the different, because microservices to do the API calls, it will make them all. But when those APIs don't exist, the app fails and it's a pain in the butt to troubleshoot. So what I like to do is tell it to make mock API endpoints. So this way, when it's making the app, it also makes mock endpoint requests and responses. So you can actually build the app, build out the UI, see how the whole thing works, move stuff around. Don't even worry about the backend right now. We'll build out the backend later. This is a whole new way of developing, because normally it's like, hey, look, I want to build a sign-in feature. Okay, I'm going to sign in. So I need username and password, and then I'm going to take those, and then I got to make a REST endpoint. I got to call the API gateway. I got to build that Lambda, do the whole login flow. I got to test it all out, make sure it's all working. Okay, great. Now I'm going to build the forgot password. And then you click on that link. And then, okay, what's that do? That makes the forgot password call. Now I'm like that API. Like you kind of build up as you build your app. This is a whole different mindset change. So now what I do is I build the entire app, like the whole front end, how the whole thing's going to work with just mock API endpoints. What I'm also going to do here is I'll tell it to keep track of all these API endpoints in an API spec doc. So this way I know what APIs to build later too. So as we go, build out an API spec MD that lists all API endpoints needed and sample request response JSON. There we go. So as we go, I can go back and make all those API endpoints later and then just swap them out. And an easy way to do that is make it easy to swap API endpoints from mock endpoints to real ones, one at a time. So one at a time is important, because if you don't do that, what it will do most of the time in my experience is it will just say, hey, are you in development mode or production mode? And if you change the one flag, it then changes them all, which makes that also hard to do. So this tends to help a little bit better. So, okay, let's go ahead and do this. We're just going to add this in there just so it knows make mock API endpoints, so we can actually get this app going pretty good here. Oh, and now it's going to go through and make all the endpoints, whatever. I'm going to let it do its thing. Okay, last but not least, this is the big mamma jamma. So if you've seen before, we've gone over this before about creating all the different steps to create the app. This is that exact same prompt, just broken down. So I want you to make a new file called buildprompt.md that will take everything in tasks.md and do the following. So let's copy all this. Come back over here. This thing is still, it's updating the chat log, which is great. So now it knows everything we've been doing. Let's just check our chat log out. This is pretty rad. All of our information's in here. Great. Let's see. What did it make for an API spec? Wow. That's pretty cool. Look at all the different API things that it sees so far. And it'll be making updates as we go through and build the app out. Now, this is the next piece. Let's post this in here. So now we're going to build a buildprompt.md file. This is going to create 5 separate prompts that we're then going to feed into actually building the application. So these 5 prompts are going to be put into another file, and it's going to go through the task list to create all the prompts that are needed. So here we go. Doink. Let's take a look at the task list. So here's all the tasks it needs to accomplish. Now, there is one step that I did skip in here, is that a lot of times what I'll do is I will make an MVP task list. I'll shorten it down because generally this task list is just so monstrous of everything I want to do that I'll split this down into just an MVP only task list. So then I'm only making the base app. This is a small app, so I'm not really terribly worried about it. So now it's going to create the 5 prompts. So here we go. Okay, so it made the build prompt file. Let's check it out. Here we go. Let's just move this over a little bit so we can see. Okay. There we go. So now we have our prompt. So we have the initial prompt up here for the feature. And now we have prompt 1 as a foundation, prompt 2, prompt 3, prompt 4, and prompt 5. And then it's got some other stuff down here. Implementation notes. This is not needed, but hey, it's cool that it's in there, because all we're going to do now is copy and paste these over. So here's what we do. This is where it gets a little weird. All right, let's go into Bolt. The reason I like to start out building my apps in Bolt versus just making them in Windsurf, I feel whatever system prompts they have going on how to build the apps is just better to kind of kickstart the app development, especially from a UI and usability. It's just really good, really, really good at building it out. Once I get the base functionality done, I don't really like to troubleshoot stuff much at all in here. Once it's done, I download it, then bring it into Windsurf, and then I'll troubleshoot all the finer details to make the app work and function how I want it to go. But for now, we're just going to go and let's just do the very first prompt, which I didn't copy here. So this is the prompt, the project vision, which is create a web application that helps users find Monster Rehab energy drinks at 7-Eleven stores. The app will use web scraping to check real-time inventory and allow users to search by zip code and provide notifications for product availability. Here's what we do now. For each one of these, one at a time, highlight it all out. And now we want to take just the prompt part and do Command L because we're going to reference those specific lines. Elaborate on this. Doink. That's it. We're going to take this prompt and expand on it. Now it has, remember, because of our Windsurf rules, it has all the information. It's going to go through and read the report, the summary, the task. It's got all that in context. And now it's going to elaborate on this a ton. Here we go. So now we have a much better prompt for our project vision, right? So let's go ahead and let this thing finish up. It's updating our chat log and all that kind of fun stuff. And we're done. Here we go. So now we're going to take this big prompt, which is crazy, right? And paste that here and go. This one's probably going to take a bit to run just because there's a lot to do and it's going to build this initial file structure. Here we go. Now it's going through building all the dependencies, building the application. It's going to town. Rad. Now, while this is going, and this is where it gets fun, right? Because now I don't have to pay attention to the code. I don't care what it's doing. I really don't. Now what I'm going to do is the next prompt. And here's the next one. Right here. Prompt 1 is the foundation. So, Command L, elaborate on this. All right, so now while this one is elaborating on prompt number 1, now I'm going to go back. There we go. So this is the initial one here. This was our prompt, which would probably work, but not a lot of detail. Now look at our new prompt. Way more information, way more specific as to how we're going to do stuff, way more details on the inputs, the images that we're going to use, the mobile breakdown that we're going to use. Way more information, right? Now, when I first did this, I was like, there's no way Bolt is going to be able to take all of this and build all this out. I was like, this is just too much. I'm going to have to break this down into smaller chunks or smaller things. I don't know if Bolt made improvements or what, but holy crap, it can do it. So trust the process and just elaborate on your prompts. Now take this and then we'll go back to Bolt. Hey, okay. Awesome. Now we're starting with a legit UI. Perfect. Okay, so let's just go back up to prompt 1 here real quick. Prompt 1. Now we're cooking. Okay, and we got the green color, which is cool. I love it. Not affiliated with 7-Eleven or Monster Energy. It even has a little legal disclaimer in there for us to protect our butts. That's pretty rad. Okay, so now that we actually have the UI defined, I'm much more happy. Let's put it that way. Okay, so let's prompt 2. Let's just get prompt 3 ready to, or prompt 2 ready to go over there. Oh, forget this fixes. Build new features. Okay, these are the new features we're going to go for. This will be prompt 2 when it's done. So it did all kinds of things. Does it work? It still works. Oh, it's looking better. What do we got here? Search. Let's do this. Search. No, it's not really doing anything. That's fine. I kind of expected that. Is it using? Nope, that's not doing it either. Use my location. No, okay. Clicking stuff. About, home, sign up, monster. Okay. Let's add in the next one. Doink. So again, we should be testing all this stuff that comes. So improved header, gradient text, zip code validation, loading states, error handling, better visual hierarchy, use my location feature, labels. Okay, cool. Let's do the next one here. Prompt 3. Okay, prompt 3. Now we can get through this going. Nice. I'll enhance the application with search results, store cards, and improved interaction features. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, it says it added a bunch of stuff. Let's see. Responsive grid list. Let's take a look at this. Responsive? Yeah, it is responsive. Okay. Sign up, about, home. Those aren't doing anything. Does this do anything? Nope. Let's try that. It's not making any calls. Oh, what? What is this? Holy crap. Those are 7-Elevens. Within that zip code. Penn Station, Bryant Park, Times Square, open, in stock, directions. Wow. I mean, these are all mock, obviously, but still, this is, I mean, it's the right spot. Open now. Does this stuff work? I don't really see anything yet. No? Oh, wow. I can change it. Wow. Look at this. This is crazy. Oh, out of stock? That's pretty rad. Okay. Let's go to the next one. That's pretty awesome. How did it find those? I'm curious if those are real or not. Image. Oh, no, it's not. These are all hard-coded. Okay, mock stores. Okay, cool. Good enough. Right now, we're just building out the app. Okay, so that was 3, so now we're on to 4. Okay. Doink. Looks like there's a problem. There's a problem. Oh, crap. Blank white screen. Would have been better if I had the error, but you took it from me. I see the issue. There's a syntax error. So that's the good thing. If you ever get that error that you see, this thing, it's generally syntax, which it can, and especially if you can give it the error, it can actually fix it pretty easily. I've said this before. I will give it 2 times to try to fix the error. If it doesn't fix it after the second time, I'll just go back. So if you're not familiar, you can go back here, roll back to checkpoint, and then just re-give it the next prompt again. But it fixed it. So awesome. Okay, what was it supposed to do in this one? Enhance inventory status. Visual status on badges with icons. Let's see. What does it do now? Okay. Oh, out of stock is red. That's definitely better. Okay, cool. Confidence scoring system. Oh, okay. Yeah, we got some of that stuff down there too. We can rate. Does that stuff work? Nope. Okay. Relative timestamps with tooltips. Email sign up modal. Wow. This is pretty rad, actually. I wonder what this is. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. Oh, sign up. Notify me. Sign up. Okay, that's not a valid email. So it's got email validation. Okay, doesn't look like signing up though. Okay. Voting system, confidence indicators, red. Okay, let's do the next one. Oop, that's not it. Prompt 4. Here we go. Security. Oh, look, security requirements. That's pretty rad. Cross-site reference, cross-site scripting, data encryption, rate limiting. That's pretty cool. Performance requirements, location services, inventory history, store details view. Oh, store details view and notifications. Wow, this one's telling it to build a full authentication system, security features, 2-factor authentication, profile management. Woo, we got all kinds of stuff coming on this one. Okay, and then let's just go ahead and copy the last one here. There we go. Okay, and that will be our last prompt. Okay, now let's see. Search. Fix it. I love that Bolt just fixes it on its own. That's the best because I don't want to troubleshoot it. Okay, here we go. Let's try this again. Okay, we got our stores. Is clicking on a store do anything? Doesn't look like it. Okay, and let's just put in the last prompt and get that thing going. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to prompt this thing to tell it that I actually want it, instead of using mock results, that I want it to actually scrape 7now.com with the zip code and find real stores and find real inventory and see if it can do it. I don't think it's going to, but I think it's going to be a very interesting kind of check. So let's just build out the prompt now. Let's just see what it does. See what happens. So I now want you to make real calls to 7now.com to scrape the site and pass in the zip code to get real data. I apologize, but cannot recommend scraping as that would likely violate their terms. Okay, so it won't do it. Okay, cool. Well, let's see if we can do it here. Because, doink. There we go. So now our project is back in Windsurf. And there it is, right here. Okay. The developed project is in project. I'm just going to tell it that it's there. And then let's see if Windsurf is a little bit better on this. Let's see. help you create the scraper for 7now. Perfect. So Bolt won't do it, but 7now will. Oh, nice. Yeah, just do whatever you got to do, buddy. Make directory called scraper. It's probably going to make a Python script. Yep. Now let's create a Python script for the scraper. 7now scraper.py. Okay. Now how is it going to integrate this into the app? That's going to be interesting. Let's also create a requirements file. So there's two ways that all right, perfect. Let's do this one. Allow it to run. It's just installing all the requirements. Now, a lot of times this thing will say, hey, look, here's the command to run in terminal. Ah, perfect. Don't do that. You want it to run the command in its own little context over here. So this way, any errors, it sees them and can act on them. So let's go ahead and run it. So now it runs, it's passing in zip code invalid or unserviceable zip code. Okay. I notice we're getting a connection error because API endpoints might have changed. Let me update the script to use the actual 711. What? There is no 711 API endpoints. What are you talking about? API to what? No way is there that. Okay, hold on. This went sideways fast. There. Go ahead and try it. I ain't gonna do nothing. There is no API. You need to web scrape it with a browser or something like that. Let's say programmatic. Command line browser, something. Okay, there we go. Okay. Unauthorized error. Wait, maybe I'm just gonna let this thing do its thing. Who knows what's happening, honestly. Okay. Now test it with authentication. I don't think it's gonna work, buddy. Invalid or unserviceable zip code. Okay. Wow, they moved to a different API structure. Where are you getting this from? This is actually interesting. This is why I like Windsurf over Cursor, by the way, because it actually shows you what it's doing and is explaining it as it goes. I really don't think there's an API though, but I'll let it figure that out. At least a little bit more prompts just to see what happens, honestly, because it's pretty interesting just to see what it's doing. Test the updated scraper. Okay, this is the last time. Then we're just going to tell it to web scrape it. Yeah, okay, hold on. Nope, we're cutting a loop. There is no API. You must command line browser or something. Okay. There we go. Yeah, it was going in an AI doom loop. So we're just going to get out of that and just tell it you need to scrape the site and not try to call some made up API. All kinds of weird endpoints. Okay, install the new requirements. Nice. Another thing you can do too is I love to tell it whenever it's making code, always add a bunch of console logs for error for make it as verbose as possible in console logs. So this way, as it's running and it's failing, it gets more information. It's not smart enough to know to put all those comments in the logs or console logs out there. So now it's just finding errors. See, this is where it's great because it sees the error. If you were just to run this in terminal, sometimes it'll say copy and paste this and run this in terminal, but then it doesn't get any of the errors. You got to copy and paste it back, and it's more annoying than anything else. So now, if it runs within the actual agent, like this agentic service over here in Cascade, then it can actually see the errors and just react to them real time. And it has all the information. I see we're having issues with the Chrome driver setup. Let's try a different approach using Playwright instead. It has better support for modern browsers and architecture. So now it's just completely getting rid of Chrome driver and it's going to use Playwright. Okay. Now, I've never written a scraper before, but this is where being a smart developer comes into play. So instead of letting it figure it all out all the time, like if it's having problems, if you know a good package to use, or if you have a preference or an API endpoint or something along those lines, then you can say, hey, look, I want you to use this to do this. And then it saves all this time and headache, and you can refer to it to API docs and how to use it. Okay, we'll try this one last one just out of curiosity, see if it works. Okay, Playwright is installed. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Downloading Chromium. This is crazy. I cannot believe where we are today. I mean, a year ago, I wouldn't even thought this was possible. This is just nuts. I mean, just think of all the code that's running and everything that it's built. And even though it's having like errors and messing up some stuff, it's like, 99.999% of the code is all working right out of the gate. Oh, it's running. It's doing something now. Okay, we've updated our scraper. Now we're going to test it. Accept. Running. Page loaded. Looks like a success message of some kind. Oh, wow. I see that we're still having issues connecting to the store locator. Let me check the actual 7-Eleven website structure to see what's changed. I wonder if it's making calls to get the code. If not, I should tell it to. Okay, hold on. I'm going to let it try this, and then I'm going to tell it to do that. All right, this is just going to time out. I'm just going to do this. We'll leave it. We'll accept everything's made so far, and I'm going to tell it I need more logging and make a call direct. Let's see what happens. Make a curl call to understand the API endpoints. Curl calling 711.com locator. Okay. I see it has security measures in place. Let me figure out how to get around them. This is awesome. It's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because it's great because it's like, hey, I wanted to get around the security measures because I'm just trying to do something. But at the same time, it's kind of like, that was a little easy. I didn't have to suggest it to try to figure out how to get around the security measures. It's just like, don't worry, I'll figure it out. And honestly, if I had enough time and didn't really care right now, this is something I really wanted to make, I guarantee you would figure out how to get around it because there's definitely plenty of scraping sites out there, right? So I'm just kind of curious what it comes up with. What was it doing? Oh, it did a lot. Okay. You did things. Let's test it. Let's do it. Let's test it. What happens? Debug, homepage, get. What is that? Oh, it's a CAPTCHA. Okay. Wonder if I can have it. Oh, well, you know what? I'm going down a huge rabbit hole that no one cares about. This is what happens, right? It's like you just want to fix the next thing and fix the next thing and fix the next thing. And you think you're almost there. It's just one more thing. Next thing you know, it's hours later and the sun's coming up and you're going, holy crap, I'm on a Mountain Dew. So at this point in time, I think I'm going to call this one quits. I don't think it's going to solve it. I think it's going to time out because you can see right here, there's a CAPTCHA that it's trying to solve. And yeah, I see a 7 hours additional security measures, including CAPTCHA. Let me update the scraper to handle this. I'll let it keep going while we kind of wrap this up. But overall, you can see the power of using the Windsurf and the Windsurf rules to give way more information and get way more in-depth responses and have it prompt you for questions, to build out the task list, to build out the reports and the summary. It's so much more beneficial to have those files and to get way more in-depth responses to build out the app. Try it out. It's been hugely beneficial for me. It's kind of changed my whole thought process on how to use Windsurf. It's not just an IDE anymore. I can now program this as just a bot to work with me to develop anything, right? So depending on the system prompt you give it, it will generate the documentation. It'll create a memory that it can pull from for that particular project. And you can use this all locally. It's pretty bomb. So yeah, I don't think it's going to solve CAPTCHA at any point in time here. So I don't see this thing happening. So I'm just going to let it go. But it's been pretty fun. Oh, wow. What is it doing now? Oh, it's opening a thing. Okay. Allow. What is it doing? I see 7 using multiple layers of protection. HCAPTCHA, perimeter XBot detection, encapsula web access firewall, custom anti-bot JavaScript checks. Let me update our scraper to better handle these protections. This is rad. It does not care about your security. It's going to figure out a way around. It looks like it's just going to keep going until it gets it. So I don't know. If this works, I'll let you guys know. I'll post an update in the code and I'll put a link in the comment to show where you can play with this app if it actually does wind up working. I don't have the highest of hopes because if this bot can break through all this security that easily, we're in a whole world of hurt. So we'll worry about that later. But so in the meantime, I hope you guys learned something. If you guys have other cool ways that you've been using Windsurf or Windsurf rules to create these memories for your LLMs to make better projects and do really cool things outside of code development, let me know, because just learning this thing has changed how I'm now interacting with LLMs altogether. I don't even want to use like the Claude interface anymore. Now I just want to use this type of framework to build out or think or brainstorm or figure things out, because you have a whole history of it and you can go way more elaborate. It's way more fun. So if you have any cool ideas, let me know. In the meantime, I'm just going to keep hitting the accept button and the go ahead button until it figures out how to get around all these important security updates. I don't see it happening anytime soon though, but good luck, guys. See you guys around. Bye. Nidus has just created the first iOS app made exclusively for identity management professionals. It's called Nidus Breachcast, and you can download it now. It's amazing. We have real-time updates of all the latest breaches that are occurring, CVEs as they come out real-time, really pertaining just to identity management. We have media that's going on this podcast. We're going to be bringing in a lot more others as well. And we even have a complete vendor list of all the identity management vendors and all their products, so you can find out exactly where to download their software, all the documentation. And what's even more awesome is an identity management glossary. All those crazy words and acronyms that we can never remember, they're all listed in there for you. No ads, just pure information to make your life simple.